What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Rise Kill Elite podcast. My name is Tyler Privet. I'm so glad that you've chosen to listen to the Rise Kill Elite podcast today, and I appreciate you taking some time to do so. So as you guys have noticed, well, at least those of you guys that have been following along with the Rise Kill Elite podcast for some time, that it's been a while since I have put out an episode of the Rise Kill Elite podcast, and so I wanted to just kind of treat this episode as like a reboot. So reboot as in like we're just gonna basically just get this thing going again, right? So since this is kind of a reboot and this is kind of just a kickoff to, I guess, what would be the second go around at this, I wanted to just clarify a few things and just basically just spend a little bit of time today discussing what the Rise Kill Elite podcast is, what I plan on it being in the future. So what the plans are for the future for the Rise Kill Elite podcast. And then, of course, just basically the overall mission and the overall goal for what this show is going to be about. So, again, thank you guys for listening today. I appreciate you doing so. So as hunters, we are constantly in pursuit. So meaning that we are constantly in pursuit of something. We're wanting to pursue some kind of prey. We're wanting to hunt after, we're seeking after something. Okay, and that's regardless of the season, whether it's a season that we're actually going after a physical animal, or it could be a goal in life. It could be pursuing to become a better husband and a better father. It could be the pursuit of just about anything. So as hunters and as people, we are constantly in pursuit regardless of the season. But in life, our prey may not be so evident. So again, this may be something that it could be a goal that you're trying to achieve for your career. It may be the fact that you are wanting to spend more time with your wife, so you're wanting to pursue her. It may be that you're wanting to be more present with your kids. It could be a number of things. So our prey, meaning the thing that we're going after, may not always be so evident. But on the Rise Kill Elite podcast, it is my goal to share the conversations and the ideas on how we can pursue what truly matters. And that is, of course, God, freedom, and the great outdoors. So that's basically the new description on how this show is going to be run. It's up to this point, we've talked a ton. I'd say probably, I don't know, about 80% of the conversations on this show have been centered around hunting. And with a name like the Rise Kill Elite podcast, that is, of course, to be expected. But as you noticed in our new description here, I want to broaden the horizon for the types of topics that we have on the show. Of course, we're still going to talk about hunting. That's what this is founded upon. That's what, the whole idea of Rise Kill Eat kind of is centered around. But I want to open the door for new conversations if they were to be presented. So that's kind of why I have this new description made up, so that it kind of opens the door for those types of conversations. I've had guys on the podcast, guys like Jeff Danker, host and creator of the show, Buck Ventures, and guys like Josh Carney, an avid turkey hunter. I've had Amy Hall. Amy is a female hunter who provided me with a great conversation on being a female in the hunting world, I guess, hunting community. I've had all kinds of great conversations with people who hunt, and a lot of the times those conversations are about hunting itself or some kind of form of conversation around hunting itself. But I wanted to broaden those horizons to people who may not be so into hunting. And I think we've kind of done that a little bit, but also kind of introduce non-hunters to hunting as well, and to talk about topics around life in general. So basically what I want to accomplish with this show is to open up the narrative for conversations where we can apply the principles and apply the things that we learn through the process of hunting into our daily pursuits, into our daily lives. So we can take the diligence and the work ethic and the ability to harvest results and be able to put that type of energy and be able to put that type of mentality towards the things that we are working on in our lives, whether it be marriage, whether it be our relationship with God, whether it be our careers, our time that we spend with our kids. It could be a number of things, and we're going to take those principles that we learn through the process of hunting and apply it to those things. That's basically what I want to kind of accomplish with this show. It's going to continue to be where I'll have I call them monologue episodes, where it's basically just me sharing some ideas on my own. And I'm always willing and prefer it if you guys comment on specific episodes and you join in the conversation so that I can share those types of things on the show. So I will continue to do some of those solo monologue episodes. Also, I'll continue to do some interview episodes. I've got a long list of people that I am interested in talking to, and a long list of people that I plan on reaching out to in the near future. So I'll continue to do some of those interview episodes and go ahead and share those conversations and share the ideas that we come up with on those types of episodes. So it's basically how this thing is going to continue to be structured. The structure in itself isn't necessarily going to change all that much. It's going to be the solo episodes in conjunction with the interview episodes. So far, like I mentioned, we have had, let me actually go through the list right here. In the short lifespan of this show, this is actually episode number 26. Yeah, 26 that is going to be posted of the Rice Kelly podcast. And so far on the show, I've had some pretty incredible guests, and it's been a true blessing just the type of guests that we've been able to have on the show. And I think it's just a testament to the types of conversations that we're having. So let me give you the list of people who we have had so far on the show. So first guest was Tony Dempsey. He's actually a repeat guest. He's one that I had on a couple times. He is an avid hunter from right here in Kentucky and a family friend and a really great guy all around. So Tony Dempsey was my first guest. And then from there, I had Scott Gonzer. Scott Gonzer is the founder and owner and operator of Snowy Elk Coffee from Wyoming. Had him on. Cody Brown, he is the co-owner and operator along with his wife of Beyond the Winds Productions, and he also helps out with Contact Outdoors. Those guys are really great. They put out some great content on the mindful aspects of being a hunter and being an outdoorsman, and they put out some great productions and great content as well. So check that out. Colin Cottrell. Colin is a real great guy from Texas who has spent much of his time in introducing non-hunters or people who are interested in hunting and actually getting them into hunting and taking them out on their first trip. One of his more notable ones that has been discussed quite a bit is his trip taking out Ryan Mickler on Ryan's first hunt. Ryan Mickler is the host, founder of the Order of Man podcast. He's got a great podcast over there as well. I'm a huge fan of Ryan's show and what he's doing there. And Colin played a huge part in getting Ryan into hunting. So I had a great conversation with Colin. Also had on Jeremiah Dowdy. Jeremiah is an outstanding wild game chef. He is somebody who is very knowledgeable in preparing wild game, somebody who is very knowledgeable in what to do with, what would be, I guess, considered non-traditional parts of the animal and being able to make a great meal out of it, and maybe non-traditional species of animals. We actually had a conversation about eating coyote, which is pretty incredible. So be sure to check that one out. And moving on here through the list, had on Jack Carr. So a lot of you guys may know who Jack Carr is. Jack is a retired Navy SEAL turned author, and he has an incredible story in his own personal life, and he has the ability to write some incredible stories. I have been fortunate enough to read his books, The Terminal List and True Believer, and man, those things are pretty great. I'm not a huge fiction type reader. I do love to read. Don't get me wrong, I do love to read, but a lot of what I read is nonfiction, I guess, type things. And after reading Jack's two books that I've been able to read, it has really turned me on to getting into that type of genre, which is of course, fiction novel. So Jack is an incredible writer, so check out our conversation there. Again, I had a great conversation with Amy Hall. Amy offered some great insights on being a female in the hunting community, and that was a really fun and great conversation that I had with Amy. She really opened my eyes to a lot of things that are going on for females in the hunting community, and it was just a great conversation all around. After Amy, I had on Jeff Danker. Jeff is the host and creator of the show Buck Ventures, and Jeff is an all-around great guy. And we had a great conversation all about faith and the outdoors and hunting, of course, and being a good husband and being a good father and that kind of thing. And actually, his conversation is really one that impacted me quite a bit and has, I guess, kind of helped me reshape, kind of tweak the final adjustments to kind of how the show is going to be set up now. So be sure to check out that conversation with Jeff. After Jeff, I had on the notable Dr. Carl Miller. Dr. Miller is an incredibly knowledgeable professor from the University of Georgia. He is the director of the Deer Lab, where they do a ton of whitetail deer research and basically just figure out how they operate, how do they tick. And we have a great conversation all about, I call it deerology, where basically we go through each of the senses, each of the 5 deer senses, so to speak. And he gives a great explanation for each of those. I actually really enjoyed that episode, and to this day, that's one of our top episodes that we have posted, and continues to get plenty of downloads even to this day. So be sure to check out that episode with Dr. Colin Miller. After Dr. Miller's conversation, I had on Josh Carney. So Josh Carney, maybe you may know him as the Son of the South. He is a great all-around guy. He was injured whenever he was a young teenager in a hunting accident and is actually bound to a wheelchair now, but he hasn't allowed that to stop him by any means. And you'll definitely be able to hear that in his conversation with me, and his whole story and his whole battle with dealing with adversity, and hearing how he's come from that is just it's incredibly encouraging for just about anybody. So be sure to check that out. After Josh's episode, I had on Kip Adams. So Kip is one that has been on a lot of different hunting themed podcasts, especially deer themed podcasts. Kip was very supportive of coming on the show, and I definitely appreciate that. And he educated us on how to manage major deer diseases. So the big one that's been thrown around a lot in the media, and the big one that's been thrown around a lot, I guess, in the hunting world, and rightfully so, is the chronic wasting disease. That's CWD. Most people may know it as CWD. But we also get into a little bit of EHD as well. So he discusses on how CWD is spread and some ways that we can limit the exposure to other deer, because it is a 100% fatal disease for deer, and it's something that should be very seriously considered whenever we are talking about game management, especially when it comes to whitetail deer in the cervid population. So be sure to check out that episode with Kip Adams. Going from there, had on Dr. Preston Ward. Dr. Ward is a physical therapist from the great state of Utah, who has started a kind of a revolutionary type way of doing healthcare for hunters and outdoor athletes and outdoorsmen. So what he does, he owns Mountain Physio. You can be sure to check them out on Instagram, Facebook. But Mountain Physio basically is a remote way of doing physical therapy for people who are interested in doing hunting specific activities. So we had a really great conversation on being a mountain athlete and balancing work, life, hunting, and balancing the intricacies of work, life, and hunting, the hunting mindset, and basically just got into what his business offers. So be sure to check that episode out. After Dr. Ward's conversation, I had on Laura Burford from right here in my home state of Kentucky. So Laura is the director of the Kentucky Wild Program. She's the program coordinator of the Kentucky Wild Program. And we had a great conversation on the importance of managing species that are not huntable species or not hunted species. Okay, so this is non-game species. And she really brought a great, meaningful, educational conversation to the show, because she shared why it's important in as far as ecosystem, as far as biological balance, and all these types of things that these are species that need our attention as well. And they're species that need to be managed, and their habitats need to be managed, and that kind of thing as well. And she offers a great conversation and education on that. And finally, my last guest that I've had is Jarrett Samuels. So Jarrett is the host and founder of the Pursuit of Manliness podcast. So Jarrett is from up in the not too far from me in the state of Indiana. We get into the idea of dominion. In the book of Genesis, the author introduces the idea of dominion. And this word is first mentioned in the first chapter of Genesis. In some translations, they'll say rule over, but basically it means the same kind of thing. So I'll go ahead and read that verse for you, actually. This is Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals and all the creatures that move along the ground." So we basically take that verse, take that idea of dominion, and we use it and we discuss it in a way to where we can have dominion within our homes and within our jobs and within our own lives as spouses, as parents, and as hunters. And it was a really great conversation. You guys can check out Jarrett's podcast. And again, that's The Pursuit of Manliness. So as you can tell, we've had some pretty incredible guests in the short lifespan of the Rise Kill Eat podcast. And I want to encourage you guys to go ahead and click that subscribe button, because the types of guests that I have planned on coming up are going to be right there consistent with that group. And I'm really fortunate to be able to be in a position where I can do this podcast. There's been times where, I'm gonna be honest with you, I've considered throwing in the towel, and a lot of that just comes from a lot of self-doubt and that kind of thing that we all kind of deal with. But I think this show still has more to offer people. So we're going to keep doing this thing until it's no longer going to be done. So we're going to keep this thing going. And I really do appreciate all the support that you guys have given me. And I'm ready to get this thing started back up. So again, be sure to click that subscribe button so you do not miss out on any of the future episodes of the Rise Kill Eat podcast. So also, I want to ask that you guys, if you guys have listened to any of the episodes, or you plan on listening to any of the episodes after I gave that awesome list of people that I've had on here, after you guys go through that, if you have enjoyed it, then go ahead and leave a review and a rating. So iTunes, a lot of podcasting platforms, the way their I guess algorithms are set up is that the more positive ratings that you have and the more positive reviews that you have, the higher up you go in their rankings. So the more that we can have and the more honest ones that we can have, it's definitely going to do a great deal of benefit for this show in order to be able to get this in front of people even more. So be sure to do that if you are enjoying the show. And I do appreciate any of the support that you guys want to offer me. That'd be greatly appreciated. Also, you can check us out on our social media outlets. I am most active on Instagram, and you can find me at Rise Kill Eat, right? As in like the name of the show. You can find me on at Rise Kill Eat on Instagram, and then you can also find me at Rise Kill Eat on Facebook. So I'm trying to keep all of the social media outlets even as far as my interaction goes, but I tend to gravitate more towards Instagram. I feel like the hunting community in general is very active on Instagram, and we have a lot of great conversations on there. So be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and then also I'm in the process of building a presence in the world of Twitter. So I'm still trying to figure out how to do all that stuff, but be sure to follow me on Twitter, and that's at RKE Field. So that's a little bit different name. Any of you guys that have listened to the Rise Kill Eat podcast in the past, you know that RKE Field is kind of the whole brand name of what we got going on here. Okay. So Rise Kill Eat podcast is kind of a part of this RKE Field. So that's RKE as in Rise Kill Eat Field. All right. So be sure to follow us on Twitter at RKE Field. All right. So thank you guys for listening today. This has been the official reboot of the Rise Kill Eat podcast, and I appreciate you guys taking some time. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. All right. Thank you for listening today, and be sure to share this with your friends. Be sure to send them the links to episodes. Be sure to go through and spread the word. All right, guys. So going forward, I'm going to try to continue this theme and the consistency of putting out an episode once per week. And hopefully as the word gets around and more episodes are being recorded, maybe I can move up to maybe a couple episodes a week. And so be sure to look out next week for another episode of the Rice Elite Podcast. All right. So thank you guys very much, and I'll see you next time.